Hello, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. Today I'd like to show you my favorite methods for marking rows when knitting on a sock loom or any other knitting loom. The reason you need to mark rows is because it saves trouble trying to count the rows later if you have a specific target. In this case, I'm knitting a sock, so obviously the fit is very important, and the difference between 50 and 52 rows could make the difference between it fitting me and fitting somebody else. So I do want to know, and it is somewhat difficult and tedious to count up the rows accurately after you've knitted them while the work is still on the loom. So we can save ourselves trouble by marking every 10 rows as we go. Let's look at how that's done. I'm knitting a sock here, and there are quite a few rows between the heel and toe. It's going to be like this sock, and I need for my sock 50 rows between my two thumbs. It's not difficult, but it gets difficult to count them. You can open up the knitting and count stitches like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But as you go up the column, you kind of get stuck underneath the loom, and it's so easy to lose count. There is an easier way, and that's what I'd like to show you. I have marked every 10 rows of this sock with something. Here is a paper clip used as a marker, and here is a piece of yarn used as a marker. I personally prefer the yarn, but it just is a personal preference. The reason I prefer it, though, you might agree with. The paper clip, even when you squeeze it together, tends to hang up on the knitting, or it possibly could, whereas the flap of yarn is completely harmless. The paper clip is 20 rows up. This is 30 rows up. Now I'm ready to hang my 40 row marker, and then I'll only have 10 more rows to go. This is a toe up sock, so I've worked the toe and I have 10 rows, and then I'll need to work the heel. So let's look at how you put the paper clip in. I'm going to open it up a little bit. Doesn't really matter which portion you use. I like these vinyl coated ones, and I'm going to open one piece of it up, lift a stitch off, and hang my paper clip in the stitch. Now the stitch is still knittable. I personally think it's a little bit easier to knit it with the second method that I'm going to use, though. I'm going to put my flap of yarn, I don't know why I called it a flap, my little piece of yarn, over a stitch and reach through the stitch and pull it through. Just one side of it. Put both ends to the inside. Now you can see the stitches, the original pink yarn stitches, are still out here to be knitted over. And I've already knitted around to the point that we're ready to do this row. So I'll show you how it works. I'm using the flat stitch. It's my preference for socks. Partly because in this instance I'm using a yarn that's cotton with spandex in it, so it stretches and it makes very good use of the flat stitch. Here we come to the first marked stitch. See, I knit it over normally, and the marker moves down, and it will continue to move down. Of course, you really only need one marked stitch per row. I just did 2 of them so you could see me doing the 2 different ones. Paper clip worked the same way. It's still in there. It's a little bit stiffer, the paper clip is, of course, than the yarn, so that gives you a little more resistance knitting the stitch. Now we're past both of them, and you can see they've both moved down. Now, in order to find the row to mark, I'm going to get this one out of the way so that you can see. Spread your stitches out with your finger underneath them. While they're still on the loom like this, it's not too difficult. Here's the last one I marked, the blue one. See the hole it's coming through? We're going to count holes going up from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is the row I marked, and I've knitted one additional row. You can count bars instead of holes. Just make sure you're consistent every time you go to counting. Count the bars of yarn or the openings in the stitches. And that way your socks will come out the right length. I hope you find it helpful. Happy knitting, and bye now.